good morning, good afternoon, and good evening because somewhere around the world that is truly what time it is. I am your host, Tony X. Um, First and foremost, I need to tell you that this show in no way, shape, or form reflects the campaign of Antone Tucker. This show is purely for entertainment purposes, that and or educational purposes. Hopefully, you'll leave from this program questioning information, um, bringing answers towards questions, and also enjoying yourself at the same time if this is your cup of tea. Please be mindful this show is for 18 years of age and older. All copyright laws will be respected, but this show is intended to use the Fair Use Act of it. Thank you very much. Please do remember that the New Right Party channel and the New Red Party show is sponsored by patriots like you. And as long as you're sending these donations, it allows me to create the content that will continue to make these motherfuckers sick. As you were.
He's on fire!
Difference is the family and my family entertainment and his team no sleep. Flossy high and yeah we made it. The haters keep on hating on the songs that we be making, and I heard they want my soul Illuminati wanna take it. Difference is the family and my family entertainment and his team no sleep. Flossy high and yeah we made it. The haters keep on hating on the songs that we be making, and I heard they want my soul Illuminati wanna take it.
CEO, bullshit, paying for the pussy, I endorse it, riding through the city, that's my off.
And I am back. I'm glad to be here. Thankful to be here. At that, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Shout out to my Wolfpack family. Um, I don't know, depending on the vibe, we may be able to get a show in later on tonight as well. Just some things I want to talk about. We're here. And I think that let me see. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Let's get right into it. I want to talk about some stuff with you guys. If you don't mind me talking about some stuff with you guys, I want to talk about some stuff with you. So this is reported on ABC News.
Made in connection with the deadly ambush of that American family in Mexico. The brutal attack leaving 6 children and 3 mothers dead, but miraculously, some of the kids were able to escape. Tom Yamas is in Mexico with more. Good morning, Tom.
Michael, good morning. Police are looking into that new arrest that happened closer to the border, but here in the state of Sonora, the same state where the massacre took place. Police say this suspect had kidnapped 2 people, but he also had an arsenal of high-powered weapons and an armored vehicle. It's unclear if he has any connection to the killings here that happened with that American family, but they are examining the possibility. We have to remember the bloodthirsty thugs that killed that American family had several hours to get away. This morning, ABC News learning new details about that ambush attack on an American family in Mexico. Overnight, relatives visiting the horrific crime scene that looks like something out of a war. This, all that remains of one of their SUVs. Mexican officials believe drug traffickers attacked the family, possibly confusing them as a rival gang.
I believe they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Nobody could have anticipated that these 2 cartels were going to be in a war.
Mexican authorities say the gunman fired more than 200 rounds at the women and children. The family, part of a Mormon community that had been living in the border region for decades. The 3 mothers driving in separate vehicles, caravanning to stay safe. Some of them preparing for an upcoming wedding.
They never arrived at their destination, and then family members were too scared to drive over the road to find them with all this going on. There was gunshots going on after the vehicle had burned, and
3 mothers and 6 children, including twin infants, shot and killed. Family members sharing these photos with ABC News. This is Ronita Miller holding her 8-month-old twin babies, Titus and Tiana, all 3 killed in the attack. Relatives say at one point one of the mothers got out of her vehicle with their hands up to show they were families. The gunman shot her point blank in the chest. President Trump reacting to the horrific news, tweeting, "If Mexico needs or requests help in cleaning out these monsters, the United States stands ready, willing, and able to get involved and do the job quickly and effectively."
Es un asunto que nos corresponde.
But Mexico's president saying their country will handle this alone, vowing justice. Elisa Stell spoke with our affiliate WPBF in Florida. She says her cousin Christine Langford, who was killed in the attack, may have been trying to save her 7-month-old baby Faith.
The mother tried to put the child on the floor under the seat in some way to save her life, but baby Faith is her name. She actually miraculously survived.
And so many relatives calling 13-year-old Devin Blake Langford a hero. They say he saved several of his siblings who had been shot, hiding them in some bushes as he walked 14 miles to get help amid what they describe as an all-out narco war.
He basically saw the cartel shooting. There were like 60 people shooting at them from all over the mountains around. And the little kid decided to get the kids away from where they were shooting and go into the bushes. That was courageous.
5 of the children taken out by helicopter, now being treated in Tucson, Arizona. And we can't say it enough, that little boy, so courageous, just 13 years old, and because of what he did.
Now let me get into it. Shout out to Claudia. Claudia Kintai in the building. Jersey Dolphins, Dolores Law, Michael T, Dina Marie. You know, I love all of y'all. Shout out to every one of y'all in the building, everybody in the building. I want to get to this. Okay, so anytime there's been a terrorist attack or an attack involving U.S. citizens and U.S. citizens dying, the United States of America is known to go after the individuals that's responsible for the crime. And in this case, we shouldn't ask Mexico for permission to go over there and kick these guys' butts. We should actually just go over there and go handle it. Both sides that was warned. We shouldn't ask permission for us to be able to go into Mexico to deal with this when American citizens were slaughtered. Babies. We should be able to go in at any time that there's an involvement of any United States citizens being murdered, and we should be able to investigate and hold those accountable, responsible. Because I don't get the feeling that the Mexican government will go with the tenacity that the United States Marines and Special Forces units would to go capture these guys. Because realistically speaking, they wouldn't exist. They wouldn't have the strongholds that they have. They wouldn't have the politicians in the pockets the way they do. Mexico isn't ran by its citizens. It's ran by its drug cartels. And that's, and that's just the sad truth. It's just a sad, sad, sad truth. The sad, sad truth. I just want to say something too. That this president is the only president that I could think of in our time that came out against the Fed. For somebody that, I don't know what this man has to do in order to show you that he is not a part of any cabal. I don't know if you understand the actions that are currently being taken by the Democrat Party and some rhinos that are on the right. But let me try to put this together for you. No president has ever in history said anything bad about the Fed. The federal government prints the money, but the federal government is as federal as this cigarette or cigar and as federal as this lighter. This is an entity with all in itself that prints the United States money, and it loans us this fiat currency at an exchange rate higher than most other leading nations, like China. China is able to not only manipulate their currency, but they're also given a leg up in terms of the Fed. I believe that the military involvement in Mexico, just briefly before we get into this, I believe that a simple military involvement would be swift, decisive, and very easy on the drug cartels. This isn't a nation or a country that we're going against. These are tyrants. These are drug dealers. These are dangerous, bad guys who will hurt and harm, kill and maim anyone in order to acquire wealth, which is temporary in this life. You know, it's temporary in this life. And I get it. There are tons of people out here who will point to Big Pharma and other pharmaceutical companies that do a whole lot of heinous things. At the end of the day, you don't find Big Pharma outside shooting people, cutting their heads off, and sending body parts all over the place. And each situation needs to be dealt with accordingly. And in this situation, these aren't individuals in suits and corporate offices that we can send investigators in to go apprehend them in a humane way. These individuals are dangerous. They rape little women, little boys. They force them to procure drugs for them in factories. They force them to become mules and carry them from one place to the next. These people are not good people. These people do not deserve the benefit of the doubt. And it wouldn't take thousands of Marines to go in to handle these individuals either. We have the technology and the capability of sending in drones and other capabilities that we possess that wouldn't necessarily even have us sending boots on ground. We wouldn't necessarily have to do that. Not to the point. We would be able to use the federal government if they do send good men in a coalition and put them on the ground. But we do have the capability to find these men and to hold them accountable. And that's what I'm saying. They need to be held accountable. Anyone feeling like they make the mistake of killing a United States citizen, no matter where they are, should feel like they will never have the same sleep that they did before that happened. They should always look over their shoulder, and we should have it, even if, and I know this doesn't sound right, and some people wouldn't like the idea of this, but I don't care if I had to have a secret squad that will go dispense justice to go grab these individuals from wherever they are and bring them here. And if they don't come quietly, if we can't put a hood over their head and put them on a ship and bring them back over here in a nice way, we'll bring them over here cold. So as long as we have irrefutable evidence showing that these individuals are responsible for the death of United States citizens, we should be able to hold them accountable, because Barack Obama passed a bill that allows the United States military to kill U.S. citizens abroad using drones. So, I mean, if he can do that, why can't we protect the United States citizens' life? Why should people in Pakistan feel it's okay to kill American tourists that want to go and walk through there? Why should, shout out to Annie L in the building, why should drug cartels feel safe to exchange gunfire with one another and then shoot citizens while they have their hands up in pure show of being in cooperation or submitting?
Hong Kong Stock Exchange this morning. Instead, he is focused on the Fed once again and what should be done with interest rates and extending out on maturities. This is what he tweeted first thing this morning. The Federal Reserve should get our interest rates down to 0 or less, and we should then start to refinance our debt. Interest costs could be brought way down while at the same time substantially lengthening the term. So restructuring our debt or restructuring our debt here, I guess it would take care of his deficit problem.
Yeah, it's pretty. I think this is the first time he's actually suggested that the Fed go to negative rates. There are some real questions among experts and commentators about whether the Fed could even legally do that. But the notion of extending maturities for debt, a 50-year bond, a 100-year bond at the Treasury is under serious consideration. And, the president supporting that notion, I wouldn't be surprised if we get there.
Well, and that is an interesting notion. I mean, as you're suggesting, Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, explored that a couple of years ago, sort of was discouraged by the market.
Now, there's a lot of talk of the Democrats' impeachment of Trump. I mean, not only did these guys, see, this is the thing, right? I mean, you got to look at it for what it is, okay? First, they try to illegally set the man up. And then when it didn't work, they said, you idiots, you botched this. You ruined this. This didn't work. You're complete imbeciles. And now we got to go about it the way we should have went about it before because we're imbeciles as well. We will go in and we will try our best to impeach him. See, the problem is, first and foremost, they've been screaming impeachment to try to desensitize you to the idea from the get-go. They've been grooming you to the idea of him deserving an impeachment, even though there is no true credible offense whatsoever. This is done in order to hide the true nature of Joe Biden and his father's relationship with other nations and the national security threat it poses to allow Joe Biden to become president of the United States of America. Looking at the true threat he created while being vice president of the United States of America. Because either he was complacent or he is truly derelict in his duty. Where he's a representative in China, less than a month later, his son gets tons of money in a deal. How could you be in charge of relations with China and not be aware of a multi-billion-dollar, million-dollar deal that's being handled in China? How could you not? Then you have to think about Ukraine. How could you not be in charge of Ukraine? Your son becomes some big shot CEO of a corporation receiving a sum of close to $50,000 or in excess of $50,000 a month as payment, and you not be aware of it. See, this is the problem. Listen, when it came to Trump's associates and past dealings with other nations, there were always someone from the FBI, NSA, CIA, wanting to keep tabs on what was happening in countries that we were in conflict with or had conflicts or truly just weren't stable or were competitors. So guess what? It's pretty much everybody. When you go and you're in contact with other officials from other states, you can bet your bottom dollar that those phone calls are supposed to be monitored. That way they can go in to make sure that there's no espionage being done in the first place. So how is it that this man, the vice president's son of all people, had the capability of dealing with these nations and no one thought about it? There were no inquiries about it. Because there would if there was anyone else involved. There would be. There would be taped discussions, every interaction. So where is it now? I don't know about the Mexican president too much because I don't really get into their politics. I try to stay within my lane, within our United States borders. I can only talk about what happens when we are in direct involvement with other nations. Um, but back to look, Trump's giving a live speech right now on the Federal Reserve.
What you promised the people you're going to point, but also a lot of other issues that you stand for. And the people of this country ought to be complimented that we have a president that said he was going to run on a platform, and he stands on that platform, and you've particularly done it for judges.
He's great. Thank you. You know, he's got this fierce way about him. He's tough even when he's trying to be nice. Like now he's. But I heard that voice. I shouldn't say this, but he looked during one of the big events in the United States Senate. He looked at a guy named Comey. He said, "Did you leak?" And he was being nice. And Comey choked. He didn't know what to say. He was so frightened of this guy. He choked. I want him to start looking that stuff up, by the way, please. Please look it up. A lot of choke there. Another man who's been incredible, and he's been a friend of mine for a long time. We actually competed against each other. He wasn't at all nice during the campaign. And who would have thought we would have become good friends, right? Who would have thought? But we did. And I could say the same for Ted, right? Well, we were good friends and then really bad. They said, when will it get bad? The media. It's like the Academy Awards. Look at all the media. Before, when it was successful. It died when they went after us, okay, the Academy Awards. Just a regular program now. But I said, Ted and I get along good. In fact, he was having a big event near the White House, and he wanted to get more people, so he invited me. He said, can you come? I said, you know, we're running against each other. This is true. And the press said, well, you two guys are actually campaigning together, and yet you're fighting each other for the nomination. And I said, that's right. We like each other. We get along great. I think he's great. We both had this incredible relationship. I said, but don't worry, it'll end. And when it ends, it'll be really bad, probably worse than normal. And it was vicious for about 4 months, but then we have a great relationship again. It was a pretty bad one for a little while, right? They didn't even think how bad it would get, but it has been. It's been great, Ted. Lindsay, I'd like to have you come up and say a few words. You've been terrific. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, in theory, at 4 o'clock, we're going to vote on 2 more judges. So I'll move this thing forward. After.
All right. So, president's giving a speech. Just wanted to go in and see what he was talking about. Like I said, this is the only president that I know in my lifetime that I've seen talk about the feds and discuss his true feelings with the Fed. I believe that Lindsay is cool, but I ain't really come to.
After I got beat like a.
I didn't really come to listen to Lindsay. I respect the man, and I have a great deal of respect for him, but I didn't come on today to listen to Lindsay. I came on to listen to you, to talk to you about what's happening. Let's touch on the homeless situation in California. And I know we've done this and we've showed this footage, but let's do it.
For so long, for so many, it was a dream. Suntans and movie stars and surfing.
Tucker Carlson said something about it. I have a lot of respect for Tucker Carlson. You know that at least he tried to get me on his program. I have such a bad taste in my mouth with Fox News right now. Trump is the most real I've ever seen. He is. So, this is what I've been trying to get to you guys. These people are literally destroying the country in front of your face and trying to steal everything you can so they can take it for themselves because they realize they truly have no power. And it's worse now than it's ever been. Make sure that if there are any elections in your states that you're involved in, that you try your best to get out and vote. And in some way, shape, or form, God willing, I win this race. We get voting ID. Because the strangest thing occurred to me, and I need to say this before I leave you. Your ID is safer in a nightclub than it is going to vote. Christmas, which is a holiday, and most Americans aren't celebrating the holiday for the birth of Christ. A lot of Americans are celebrating the holiday because of gifts. Corporations are celebrating the holidays because they're going to make a lot of money. So all of these holidays, they make money. All of them, every last one of them. These people all right, let me just try to simplify this even simpler. All right. These people have done everything they can to lie to people, get them out, get them going. And for those that feel like they're guilty for the color of their skin, they're banding together and they're outside striking people for the color of their skin. These people have met in secret to talk about impeaching the president on a phone transcript that you all can read. Every last one of you. They can't beat him in an election. There's just no way. There's no way. And they know it. There's a lot that's at stake come 2020. And it's more than just a presidency. It's really who we have as a president. And then more importantly, got to get back to this voting situation. So the clubs will scan your ID before you go inside of them, right? And they'll scan it, they'll run it through a scanner, or they'll scan the barcode, but they'll make sure that the ID is real. So then when you go inside, they know that you are of age and that you're able to drink and you are who you are because they've looked at it, if they've done their job appropriately. When you go into a voting booth, and again, back to the holidays, these are celebrated. No elections are celebrated like holidays. And why aren't they when they're the most important thing you have as an American? They're the most important things you have as an American. I love Christmas. I do. But to me, the elections of this nation are just as important and should be celebrated. They should be marked and celebrated just like we do Christmas. Just like we do Halloween, just like we do Thanksgiving, just like we do Easter, just like we do Valentine's Day. At least Valentine's Day. At least market it like you market Valentine's Day. At least do that much. At least allow people that are going inside the voting booths to pass security, because there are supposed to be security there in the first place. And the security scan the ID and look at the person to make sure that this person is who they say that they are. Period. Instead, anybody's able to walk into these schools. Anybody. And in some cases, you're able to walk into these schools and you can actually harm people because there is no security. This election is important. Who we have as a president is the most important thing that we can have to deal with for the next 4 years. And for those of you out there that is watching this, you don't have to like Donald Trump, but you know what's going on. Come on. Federal government investigating him. Whole bunch of people getting locked up that knew him, but for stuff that had nothing to do with him. A whole bunch of lies. Promises that he's going to get locked up when a report comes out. The report named after the famous dude who was supposed to prosecute him and was running amok and everyone screaming Mueller and was afraid of him. Didn't even know what was in his own report. He didn't even do the work himself. Now you have the Justice Department about to lock up a whole bunch of people like Peter Strzok, Miss Page, and others who are all working in concert to illegally investigate this president, who then was just a presidential candidate. Could be you. Could be these people. You could have the upper hand now with your media, your social media platforms, your news outlets, who seem to just promote everything that you like to hear because they're telling you over and over and over again what they want you to believe. But just imagine when it's your turn. And they destroyed the conservative movement, and the conservative movement no longer has a voice. And then you're left. And then you're outside and you're protesting because you don't like something that's happening. And then they decide to start to silence you. Don't think that you're safe. Don't believe it. And don't believe Bernie Sanders or any one of these cowards are going to help you or help me. You have to really start thinking outside the box. These people have never done anything for you. Why are you even thinking about giving them any power? It would seem more interesting if there were people who were running who decided that they were going to quit whatever it is that they were doing and focus on running. It would be more interesting if there were people telling you they quit altogether and that someone else that's involved in the people should be running. Because they've done absolutely nothing. Elizabeth Warren, all of these people you can name, what have they done? What's their signature achievement? Bernie Sanders, what's his signature achievement? What is his signature achievement? What is it? What is Joe Biden's signature achievement besides locking up more minorities than you can count and imagine? What is it? What achievements do these people possess that outweigh what Donald Trump has done with prison reform alone? Now let's talk about the $100 billion into the over 2,000 communities that are impoverished along this nation, that are minority, predominantly. Let's get into the fact that this is the best economy that we've had in decades, and we have the lowest unemployment for all Americans. I don't talk color stuff. That's stupid. It's stupid. The unemployment rate is low for all Americans. Everybody working. He's not the greatest guy to give a speech. I'm not either. But in terms of leadership and keeping his word, there's never been anything like him. In terms of fighting a system that clearly is corrupt and has tried to destroy him in front of our very eyes, in front of the whole entire world, and for him to still continue to win, he's not only a fighter, but he's a winner. And that's somebody that I want to have as a president. That's somebody that I need to have as a president. Because I've watched a lot of people fall to the United States government and the tools that they have and they possess. And there are a lot of people that are afraid. There was a man that had pictures of Bill Clinton in his house in a blue dress that seamlessly died in a super maximum security detention center in Manhattan. In Manhattan. And I was in the building. I was on the level he was on. I've been there. Coming in on intake, going into a regular unit, being a barber inside the facility, and then going back up there to cut their hair of people who were suicidal, people who were threats, people who were extremely dangerous. I was the barber of the whole prison. The way the beds are made, it's impossible for you to hang yourself. Quite impossible. The way that his neck was broke, it was impossible. His body would have hunched forward, and he would have snapped back a long time ago. And if anything, it would have broke from here, not from the front. It would have had to. Rigor mortis would have set in, and it would have had to break in order for the body to fold, for the body to fall. If he would have hung himself. So just the forensic evidence shows that this man was incapable of killing himself. He was strangled to death. There is a system set in place that rewards the wicked. There are people who have been running this government behind the scenes for a very, very, very long time. You can call it the deep state. You can call it the New World Order. You can call it the Illuminati. You can call it devil dog duty. I could care less. Realistically, there are a bunch of people who are some very, very bad people that have ill intentions, and they're trying to destroy this nation. And you need to be aware, armed, and prepared to make sure that it doesn't happen. It's your responsibility. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Stay American. And remember, bleep the other side, because we don't care.